How's it going? Trey Clark here, as I usually am. I'm going to jump right into this as I usually do. And obviously, it's getting ready to get even crazier as we wind down with election stuff. I'm not offering any kind of expert opinion, just my own observation. And I personally feel like I'm pretty good at critical thinking. I voted for W. Bush twice. Now, I don't know what would have been a better option if Gore would have been, but I know now, because I wasn't paying attention, of what a horrible idea it was to go to war with Iraq and all that kind of stuff, and what the real motives were. And really, now that I've educated myself about the Bush family, that they make the Clintons look like small time, pocket pickers. So you can't accuse me of being like a Republican pundit or anything like that. It's not that. It's critical thinking. Now, you can hate Trump and his policies. I have no problem with that. If you really want a socialist government, we vote, okay? That's what we do. That's why we do this. If the majority of people think it's a better idea to have the government basically run everything and us all kind of be the same level of, I think it'll be the same level of poor and erase the middle class. Some people really do want that. It took me a long time to wrap my head around that. And the 1% will just be gone. The 1% are the people that are pushing this on us. They want to get rid of the middle class. The way this works is the poor, they need to keep poor. And the poor will always vote for anyone who's promising them all the stuff. The middle class will bear the burden of it, but they're going to get pushed down towards the poor. When I say the middle class, I just mean people that can say they have 2 cars, maybe own a home, and probably have a lot of debt. That's a good description of the middle class, in my opinion. So, but even still, the middle class can maneuver and do things because they still have things like credit. They might have saved up some money or things like that. And so they can't just be shut down with offers of free stuff, okay? They're willing to go into debt to put their kids into college so that they're not on the teat and still be able to vote conservative. A classic liberal and a conservative, by definition, are the same thing. So what the left does, as it always does, as it did with the KKK, and somehow they ended slavery, even though the Republicans did, even though Lincoln was a racist fucking motherfucker, they do the same thing. Have you ever scratched your head and thought, well, why are the Democratic cities doing so poorly? Most of them have been run by Democrats for a very long time. Have you ever just thought that, well, it's the same through the Clintons, through the Bushes, through the Obamas, and then now through Trump? Nothing has changed. Why? And the only answer I can get right now is because Donald Trump is a racist. So use your critical thinking. Count the number of racist things he said. The one thing he has said is that something about they send us our worst, the rapists and criminals and all that kind of stuff. But he was referring to the fact that they're not just sending their doctors and lawyers over here. They're sending thugs. They're sending I can't say it, the gang members. So they'll strike me. So if you can say, well, but he's still being racist, then you're lying, because he wasn't. He was referring to the bad guys. So either you're an idiot and you can't make heads or tails of what someone's trying to say within context, or you're a sheep and a lazy sheep, and you don't even bother to look into it to see what was really said in context, or you really do want it all to burn down. So there's only 3 options, because there's no way you can really win any kind of public debate that he was saying we hate, Hispanics or anything like that. That is not what he was saying. And anyone who wants to argue against securing our borders and say, well, you're putting people in cages and all that, the left was intentionally flooding our borders, inviting this movement of people in for this exact reason, so that it could just become chaos and then blame it on Trump. Go, what the hell are you supposed to do when you detain families and have to separate them? Okay? I just talked to a guy, I live down here in Corpus Christi, a guy that I've done some business with, who's a Border Patrol agent for 35 years. I talked to him, it is not the story that you're getting. They are intentionally flooding the border with invitations to come over here. Just vote for us, get here, and we'll give you free stuff. And of course they're going to come. I would. But then it creates chaos. Okay? If you can't understand that, and all you can see is that kids are being put in cages as if that's what these Border Patrol agents, this guy has a family that I talked to, 35 years, all along the border, okay? And he was telling me stories about how the mules would bring in young children, and shove balloons full of drugs in their rectums and their other parts and stuff and sneak them across, and some would die and some wouldn't. And no one wants to address that. It's only Trump wants to separate families, as if that's the result of someone doing any kind of critical thinking. What kind of person wants to win an election and just go, you know what I really want is for all families to get broken up? But the reality is, most of these kids coming across the border are not coming with their family. They're coming with their uncles, okay? And once they get here, and I ran sound a couple of months ago for the sheriff down here in Nueces County, for him doing a speech on just this, and how a commodity of human trafficking, a human is worth more than drugs now, because humans keep paying off. Drugs, once they get used, they're gone. And then they have to keep doing it. A human can keep producing, I think, it was like 7 times, my wife was telling me this morning, I can't remember, but like 7 times more of a return on your investment as a human. And none of the left will ever admit that. If it was the right that was not admitting this, I would disown them in a heartbeat. Just as I've disowned the Bushes. The Bushes, to me, are the worst thing that has ever happened to America. Okay? So I'm not a Republican thing. I'm not just going by their playbook. I just didn't know. But now we know. Now we know we can look into things. So if you think that letting people vote with no credentials at all to say who you are is a good idea, again, I'll go back to it. Either you're incredibly naive, or you have an agenda, which is not a good one. At least it's not, compared to most people that want just a better version of America. Or you don't know what the fuck you're talking about at all, and I hope you don't vote. The idea that what the left is selling us, and the left is the media, even Fox News, we only get bits and pieces, I promise you, unless it's from someone you trust that can speak freely, and usually that'll be a podcast that will be shut down if they speak too freely, which I've been shut down more times than I can count. You're only getting what the 1% wants you to get. They want to cut out the middle class and shut you down. And then they want to go to war. That's what the left and certain people on the right want to do. You can say whatever you want to about Trump, but he's not just gotten us into more and more quagmire wars, okay? That's the machine that runs everything. The military-industrial complex is what Eisenhower himself said, beware of this the most. The people that want the power, that are not Trump's administration, some of the people in his administration don't like him because he's like, why do we need to be over there? We have plenty of problems here. Those are the people you're voting for. If you vote Biden in, Kamala Harris, we will be right back over there in some sort of quagmire situation. That's what will be the reality. You can say a lot of things about Trump. I could personally say a lot of things about Trump. But if you just take your emotions out of it and just get the whole orange man bad out of your system just to see what's going on. In other words, you can be lost in a forest and be emotional about it as much as you want, but you still need to look at the map as what it really is. There's no reason to think that Trump is some sort of racist Nazi. Doesn't make any sense at all. George Soros was a Jewish person in Budapest that was collecting the stuff from the Jews. He was confiscating their goods. That's what he did. He was trying to stay alive as a 14-year-old kid, but he has Nazi uniforms and all that kind of stuff. So if you're going to say Trump is a Nazi and you deny that Soros is anything but the worst of the worst, then there's something really, really wrong if you're going to go die on that hill and say, well, I don't care. Well, Soros has my best interests. And I know he funds Antifa. And I know that they burn minority businesses to the ground. And I know that the Democratic-run cities have never done well, or at least the ones that don't run well have always been Democratic and, that type of thing. If you can't put two and two together, what the fuck are you talking about? Texas, they want to turn Texas blue. Why? Texas is the darling of the United States as far as the economy. Why in the world would you want to turn Texas into California? Why? Can you explain that? Okay, is Trump a racist? What has he done that is so racist? Other than, hopefully, the border crisis was not Trump's doing. Now, could have done something better? I don't know. But no one ever says what they would have done better. I've been in some threads where I'm like, okay, what would your plan have been? Yeah, that's all they had were just these outdoor detention centers so the kids didn't just get kicked to the curb and go right back. They're going to get sex trafficked. That's what happens. But at least they're getting food and clothing, and there is some process, but they're overloaded like crazy. And the left, all they do is just invite it in because we'll give you more free stuff. If you're okay with that, fine. But quit acting like every time the wind blows the wrong way, Donald Trump was there to start it and then keep it from getting better. It's not true. And the world is waking up. There's a reason why there's going to be a very frustrated small part of the population. It's like, well, what happened? I thought Trump was responsible for everything, and they still voted him in. The likelihood of Joe Biden getting voted in is to me very small because he can't make sentences. He's senile. There's no doubt. I do think they want him in. Kamala Harris moves up to president, and then or they can freeze up the election long enough to where if they freeze up the Supreme Court deal, then there's only 8 justices, and so then there can be a hung jury if there's election fraud or something like that, and so there can't be a decision. So if that happens, Nancy Pelosi becomes president. Okay, Speaker of the House becomes president. You think they don't know this? You think they're not strategizing about this? I understand if you think that, well, they promote my values, but if you want it to happen in the way that the left is going about it happening, fuck off. You want nothing to do with the America that many of us want. Okay? And oddly, the people that are claiming there's going to be a civil war are the ones that are wasting all their bullets forming countries that can't even wipe their own buttholes in the middle of cities like Seattle, Chaz, and don't want humans to have rights to have guns that are given to us, and want to go to civil war with against people that have not been firing guns in the air and wasting them and all that stuff. I don't get it. And the sad thing is the young people are being bamboozled because academia and the media has taken advantage of young minds, which they do. They did mine. I enlisted because I thought it was a good idea to go over there and fight against someone. I didn't go. I didn't ever go over there. But that's why I enlisted. I hated them. I thought that everything that I was being told was correct. And I know now that it was false. I didn't have the information then, I do now. But we do now. Okay? If you think that the Biden administration will not lead us right back into a bunch of fucking wars, just like the Bushes, just like the Clintons, I don't know what history you've been paying attention to. Is Trump perfect? No. He's a man. Do not trust any, even if he does everything great, he's still just a man who sins and all these things. But he hasn't done what they say. He hasn't earned the hate that they're giving him. That's because people are sheep. People go, oh, you hear 3 times in a row that Trump's a racist. Then suddenly, in your mind, not only do you think he's a racist, you'll tell everybody he is, and you'll vote that way. There's no evidence of it. Like he doesn't hire them in his cabinet. It's not like he says, I mean, the black community loved him. He's gotten all these kind of awards from the NAACP. He's got a lot of support from the black community even now. But they wouldn't do that if he was a racist. And no one can give me one example of a racist thing he has done. And if building a wall is racist, then what is your answer to making it hard for these children to be brought over? Once there's a vacuum, and it's a good idea, and it's a very monetarily valuable way to go about your business to bring kids in with drugs shoved up their rectums, yeah, it's worth shutting down. It's worth a fucking wall, okay? If you lock your front door, it's worth a wall. Why? Because you don't want the bad guys in. Immigration was not a big deal until the Bushes, okay? And they created the Reagan era and Nancy Reagan and the war on drugs. Immigration was basically just a seasonal thing, and no one had much of a problem with it. It wasn't a big deal. But look into Zapata, look into what a piece of shit family the Bushes are and were, going back to Prescott, even before that. They created all of this stuff, and we invited it in. But it's also our time to fix it. And it ain't the Biden administration. The Biden, the Bushes, the Clintons, all that stuff is just more of the same, okay? They have kickbacks from, they're going to make their money. They're already incredibly rich. Al Gore is a billionaire. The Obamas are preaching climate change is the biggest problem in the world, but they buy oceanfront property when the oceans are already supposed to be rising to the point where people are dying. There's never been one person to literally die of climate change, just storms. Okay? Use your head. Use some critical thinking. I understand if you don't want to vote for Bush, but if you're voting for Biden because you for Trump, if you hate Trump, fair enough. But if you're voting for Biden, then you're voting for war. You want to send our kids back over there. That's what they do. Trump is the only president in my lifetime that did not look for a quagmire. Has he been involved in military operations? Yes. But ISIS isn't the talk of the day anymore. Okay? We're not sending, ungodly amounts of troops to occupy anyone. We pretty much left people alone. And he's done some really good, he's actually done something to get nominated for a peace prize. I think 2. Obama got one before he was even president. What the fuck is up with that? He bombed more people. He dropped more bombs than Bush did. Yet, we're still having these conversations that Trump is the most horrible person ever. And Obama was great. I don't get it. So, maybe we just have a very different opinion of what some people that are disagreeing with me right now want Venezuela for America. But I'm sorry, if you're middle class, your lifestyle is fucking gone. If you're one of the elites, you got a 50-50 chance, just depending on who your allies are. If you're poor, don't worry. You'll stay poor. You'll never get any better. Okay? I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm saying think about the reality of what the future looks like. Is Trump truly a racist person? If you think he is, write down the top 2 or 3 things. I can write down plenty about Obama. Okay? Plenty. Shit, I could write a book just by Joe Biden quotes. Why? Why is that okay? How can you point the finger at a Trump voter when Biden says the most racist shit? What was the black or poor kids have just as much right to a future as white kids? What the fuck? And that doesn't bother anybody. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Or if you don't know who you're going to vote for, you ain't black. God damn. They're telling you who to vote for. If you are a minority, don't be a sheep. Vote your conscience, but don't vote because they're telling you that Trump is racist. That's their plan. Propaganda works. Okay? Cheers, guys.